Welcome back to the channel, and as always, if you guys enjoy the content that we provide, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below to keep up with all of the action leading up to this weekend's 109th running of the Indy 500. We still have 2 full days of coverage from Carb Day and on race day itself, and of course, it would not be possible without our friends over at Peak Performance. Well, the news just keeps on flowing in the fallout of this Team Penske cheating scandal that happened over qualifying weekend at the Indianapolis 500. Today, around 11 a.m., Team Penske released a statement, and it says verbatim that Team Penske announced today the departures of IndyCar team president Tim Cindric, IndyCar managing director Ron Ruzinski, and IndyCar general manager Kyle Moyer from the organization. Team Penske will have further announcements this week related to the personnel and replacements for this weekend's Indy 500. They also included a direct quote from Roger Penske: "Nothing is more important than the integrity of our sport and our race teams. We have had the organizational failures during the last 2 years, and we had to make necessary changes. I apologize to our fans, our partners, and our organization for letting them down." So this is huge news coming from Team Penske, mainly because of the Tim Cindric news. Tim Cindric has been with Team Penske for about 25 years now, since the fall of 1999. He has been very instrumental in a lot of happenings at Team Penske during that 25 years. He was there in their late kart era. He brought in Helio Castroneves, Gilles de Ferran. He brought Team Penske back to the Indianapolis 500 quite successfully, as they won 3 in a row from 2001, 2, and 3 with Helio and Gilles. He's oversaw their 2 Porsche programs, the first one being in the American Le Mans Series era, as well as kind of the IMSA era, even though he's not had as big of a footprint in it as the previous. And for many of years since he was brought into the fold, he was Joseph Newgarden's strategist, and before that he was on Will Power's car. So this is very big news. He was actually tapped to be the replacement for Roger at the Team Penske organization and heading that up, and he has kind of flexed that role since Roger purchased the Speedway in late 2019. And it is big news, the fact that all 3 have been let go. Interestingly enough, that Kyle Moyer was also let go, formerly of Andretti Autosport, or during his tenure, Andretti Green Racing, as he was the strategist for the number 3 entry of Scott McLaughlin, even though that car had not actually been caught, per se, with the same modified attenuator. It's just interesting to note that he has been let go as well. So Roger Penske kind of going in and cleaning house in terms of the strategists. And I think this was a necessary measure from the Team Penske side, because there is a lot of people over at 16th and Georgetown right now that are very pissed off, for lack of a better term. Whether it be the teams, the sponsors, an engine manufacturer, there's a lot of things at play here, and I think this is Roger trying to actually fix the damage that has been done. Now, when you look at this whole thing on its face, modifying an attenuator, while it's a safety structure, it's not the biggest ordeal in the world. However, it's the team that did it that is the big question, and what makes it even worse is that this was, as we mentioned yesterday, on last year's Indy 500 winning car. So I think for Roger's sake, there needed to be some fundamental change brought within that company. And, he was asked in a sit-down interview with Jamie Little about this, about there being a conflict of interest. And he said, "I'm not in the pit box, I'm not in race control, I'm not in inspection, I have nothing to do with officiating." And that's a very clear and concise statement. When you think of the day-to-day operations of the IndyCar Series, you don't see Roger sitting in any of those positions. He's more or less a fan in that regard. Another thing that was brought up in recent times is about independent officiating, and he acknowledged that for the last 6 months or so, there has been discussions internally about how to do outside officiating, outside tech, all of those things. And it's something that the series is going to take a look at going forward. In the same interview, Roger did reiterate that all three cars deserve to be in the Indy 500. And Jamie Little also asked a very hard-hitting question in that to her compliment there, that about last year's winning car. We noted, and has been noted through various media members, various social media posts, that last year's car appears to have the same modified attenuator. And Roger reiterated that last year's car passed tech. It had been stripped completely down by tech and passed with flying colors. But he did note that there were 9 rear attenuators that were modified last year from Dallara. Now, when you look at that out of context on Facebook, in that video post from IndyCar on Fox, it looks very bad. But there is something to keep in mind in this, that last year we did have this newer elongated rear crash structure that was introduced. So on his part, he is probably, more than likely, and probably very likely, talking about they were existing attenuators that were lengthened by Dallara. He also said that they had purchased several new attenuators, and those have been in and out of rotation for the last 15 months, and that the attenuator that Scott McLaughlin crashed with was one of the new purpose-built longer attenuators. He also stated that his main priority now is to gain back the credibility of the series after this whole debacle. Roger was very clear that he's had nothing to do really with Team Penske, and that he keeps his hands out of the technical side of things and all of that, but there's still a bunch of questions that do need to be answered, and I guarantee you there's going to be more ramifications coming down internally within Team Penske. In terms of how the series handled it, you have to give credit to new series president Doug Bowles. This is the first major challenge that he's had in his presidency of the series, and he handed down penalties that were very much not expected until after the 500 the next day. And I do want to follow this up in terms of the fine, because I've seen this brought up multiple times online about the money just going right back in Roger's pocket. And Doug held another press conference this morning, and he did state that the money collected from Team Penske will not be going back to the series, but it'll be distributed throughout various charities here locally in Indianapolis. So it does solve one, kind of unimportant issue about where the fine money goes, but it's still going to be an issue nonetheless. But right now, I think the series is in very much a state of damage control. It's no secret that one of the manufacturers has been on the verge of leaving for a couple of years now, and this does not help the cause of that much at all. And there's supposed to be a new engine formula coming out in 2027, and obviously the series wants to retain having multiple engine manufacturers, and I think this might help those discussions going forward. It's also understood that engine manufacturer has also been wanting independent officiating. So what can we take out of all of this? That I think first and foremost that Team Penske did take this situation very seriously by releasing 3 very integral parts of their team, most notably, of course, Tim Cindric. That the series is taking this very seriously, and there is going to be changes to come over, not just this week before the Indy 500, but long-lasting felt consequences of this and repercussions going into the races ahead as we look forward to the championship battle that ends on Labor Day weekend, but also in the next coming couple of years. And we should see, hopefully changes in how officiating and technical inspection and all of that stuff is done. And Tim Cindric himself did release a statement after this whole thing, and this actually just came out within the last hour. And here it is verbatim. "It's been an amazing ride. While my conscience remains clear through all of the noise and accusations, I'm grateful to have so many people to draw strength from in times like this, still standing tall." So, Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting day in the IndyCar world. It's been an interesting couple of days. And once again, I'm sure that we will see definite longer lasting consequences of this come to bear. I'm very interested to see who Team Penske is going to appoint to be on top of those pit boxes in the coming days to replace Kyle Moyer, Tim Cindric, and Ron Ruzinski. Definitely, you'd have to think that Jonathan Duguid from the Penske Porsche program will make a reappearance after being on the pit box last year in the wake of the St. Petersburg controversy. But there haven't been any official announcements yet, but I'm sure we will see some probably tomorrow or on Friday for sure on who will be calling the strategy for those three cars. But as it stands now, we still will have three Penske entries on the grid. We will have Scott McLaughlin starting in 10th position, and we will see Joseph Newgarden and Will Power starting in 32nd and 33rd. So beyond that, if any more earth-shattering news breaks about this whole situation, of course, we will have you covered here on the channel. And we look forward to Carb Day coming up on Friday, and of course, race day coverage on Sunday. And once again, it's all possible to our friends over at Peak Performance. So, if you like what you've seen so far throughout our coverage, not only from here, but throughout the entire NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing season, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below as we got you covered throughout the rest of the Mission Foods Drag Racing season. And until Friday, hopefully, we will see you in the next video. Sponsored by Peak Performance.